Okay, so hi everyone. After a long time, we are meeting for a session. Good afternoon, good evening for everyone. And let's start with Agile estimation topic, which is one of the very important topic and interesting topic because this plays a very important role to plan our particular product's roadmap. And we will also get to know how the project is going to be with respect to the timeline. So this plays a very major thing. And as we all know, in Agile, things will be keep changing, and it is also very important how we are welcoming the changes and adapting to the changes. But that is also a catch. When we are keep on adapting to the changes, when we are keep on welcoming the changes, how I can estimate? That is also another problem, because if we know concrete vision or clear cut information that this is what I'm going to do, then it is very easy. But if there is always an option that something also may get added up, how are we going to do the estimation? That's what is all about Agile. Now let's start with the step by step in the overall topic. Okay. So before getting into the topic of estimation, I want to quickly give some information about guesstimate, or which is also called as ballpark estimate. Many of you would have heard about this term. Please give the guesstimate. Please share the ballpark estimate for the particular release. Why it is important, and why when we have estimate, why I need to do guesstimate. That is also very important. Now let's try to understand a new project. Okay. This new project, anytime when we take a new project, the product backlog may not be completely available. It will be keep growing. Any project product backlog will be keep growing, but the situation in the new project is it will be in a very immature state that we may not have all the details even, and whatever the details we have also, we may not have the clear information. So there is already a gap. But still, we want to give the estimate, because that's how we can plan our project timeline, right? We all know there are three important pillars in project management. What are they? Time, budget, and scope. These three are interlinked. I have a certain amount of money and I need to plan my project. If that is the situation, like let's take that as a situation. If there is a certain scope, whatever may be the time, whatever may be the budget, I don't really care. I want to complete that scope. That is also maybe one another situation. The third one is I have only 4 months of time and I want to deliver certain things in that time. I cannot extend more than 4 months. So everywhere there is a situation that out of these three, something may be constant and two of them may be variable, or two of them may be constant, one is variable. Let's take a simple example. There is a project where you are planning for major three requirements. Okay, that is your target for release one. Now you need to give a plan and the timeline that this much time is required. Why that is required to give? The reason is, when you are saying that, okay, you are telling this is the scope. Okay, I got it, that the three requirements are my scope. Now for achieving the three requirements, I need so and so time. So now when we say I need so and so time, then only now the product management team and the business will be looking for, hey, this is too much. We cannot have that much space for 6 months. We need to plan it for 3 months and we need to push to the production. So that is impossible now with the team, whatever we have. Now what we will do? We have some more budget available. Why can't we pull some more people in the team? That means with the help of the money, I am increasing the people count in my team so that the scope, whatever I have planned, that are the three requirements, I can achieve in 3 months instead of 6 months. So this is how we need to balance between these three constraints. That's why these three are called as constraints of project management. So for that, now coming to the topic of guesstimate, we know that there are some requirements which are available and we need to give the timeline. Why it is important? As I mentioned, there is a release that is getting planned in so and so time. By so and so time, if we want to meet the market, whether we have that kind of people strength in our team, the team has that much of people or not, how are we going to get that understanding how much time it is going to take? For that, we will be doing the estimation. But I am in a very initial phase. I don't have complete detail at all. I am not clear with the data. I don't have all the information about the requirements. My product owner is also trying to gather the information. Team is unaware. Can we say this reason and wait for another 2 months to give the estimate itself? No, we cannot do that, because this is very important for the business to plan when the release is going to happen and whether that release plan is aligned with their timeline, what they are looking for. If not, how to increase the people count in the team and fit within the budget. All those things they need to plan. So for that, we need to give some initial preparation. That initial preparation with respect to the timeline is called as the ballpark estimate or the guesstimate. It may not have all the information. It will not be having all the details. How we can do that then? With the experience, whatever we have gathered from our previous similar kind of projects. Let's say, for example, it is a very similar kind of project earlier we worked. We know that these all are the features roughly we are going to do it, or the architect who have worked on that project is going to work on this project also. So he or she has good idea. So the architect is sharing some information. Guys, don't worry about all these things. I have worked on the similar project. This is how it is. So we can sit and give the estimate with the help of the experience, with the help of some guesswork. Okay, these are the things we are doing. Let's plan this much of work. So here comes the catch. It is not going to be accurate. Always it will be given in weeks, not even in days. Like for this particular requirement, it is going to take 4 weeks. For this particular requirement, it is going to take 8 weeks. So that we are getting some cushioning factor already. Otherwise, what will happen? We will be rightly bound, oh, 3 days, okay, we will be able to complete. Now, because we don't have the real data, we don't have the real information, what we are going to do. So we always look for some guesswork and prepare this timeline. So this is called as ballpark estimate or guesstimate. So now we will be sharing this. So can we live with this? No, because this is a very rough estimation. This may increase or may even decrease. We want to somewhere get into a level which is very much closer to accurate value, right? As we were not having complete details, we were unable to do. But slowly what will happen? Our product roadmap will be getting into picture. Our product backlog will be getting into good level of details. And we will get into the level that we will be able to manage things in a better way. And we are getting more and more clarity. We know that what is expected. We are able to identify the dependencies. We are able to identify the risk. Slowly, this level of maturity will get into picture. During that time, slowly this guesstimate will turn into estimate. So to turn the guesstimate into estimate, we need to do more refinement sessions, more brainstorming sessions, because initially we need to do more and more of brainstorming, because we ourselves don't know what are the things that we are going to pick, whether it is feasible, not feasible, technically possible, whatever the challenges that we have, we need to more and more brainstorm. So with the help of this brainstorming session and with the help of more and more refinement session, we will get into a stage where we will be able to turn our guesstimate into estimate. Okay. So now we know that where guesstimate is getting into picture and when estimate will start. Now, what are the things we can estimate? Anything that is available in the product backlog and sprint backlog can be estimatable. So now comes the question, what is the product backlog and sprint backlog? Both are almost same only. No, product backlog items only will come to the sprint backlog. Then why there is a need of doing the estimation? Now let's go a little bit deeper. What are the things available in the product backlog? Product backlog is generally a master backlog, right? Which will have all the information that are available from the business, from anyone. I am a team member. I am proposing a nice to have functionality. What product owner will say, good Selvi, please add it in the product backlog. Let's plan it according to the priority. Business is looking for certain requirements. They will be adding in the product backlog. So product backlog is something, it will be available till the life cycle of that particular project. Till the project execution is available, this product backlog also exists. But very important thing is, we will not be having all the work items available for all the time. Whenever I say all the work items, first month of the project, certain requirements got added. Okay, let me give an example also so that it will be easy to correlate. Initially, when they planned this product, they thought like for login, let's give username, password, and the traditional way of logging in. Okay. And and there were user stories also returned based on that. And there were a lot of work items that were planned considering this, which means the username, password, and this is how login is going to work. And after a month time, what happened is actually like we were not working on the login page. Okay, we were working on other requirements. Before even picking up those work items or the user stories of login, business came up and said that, hey, like no need to work on login page. The reason being, we are coming up with a new item. Let's plan something with the help of mobile number and OTP. It is nowhere with username and password. Now the requirement itself is changed, right? But we have already written user stories for, we means here product owner. Okay, product owner have already written user stories for username and password, login button, reset button, all those things have been written. But now the requirement itself is getting changed. So now the catch is, what generally it will happen is like we will not even worry about those existing user stories. We will make that as available as it is, and we will be start writing user stories in a new phase. And we will not even worry about clearing that off. That is one important thing. Sometimes what product backlog looks like, it looks like a humongous list, but out of that, many of the things are even invalid. So it is also very important for a Scrum Master, every now and then sit with your product owner to help them in clearing up this product backlog. Because who is responsible for the product backlog? Your product owner. But you can very well support the product owner. See, these are the things which we have written for login. Now this requirement itself is not available. Why are we having those user stories? One thing is create a particular status which is called as invalid or removed or something, so that it will at least not show up in your board or in the product backlog, at least with a different status. Otherwise, start reusing those stories for other purpose. If it is okay, if you feel like, okay, I don't want to have that record anyway, it is not going to help me in future because that requirement itself is completely gone and it doesn't make sense to keep it again. So let me reuse that. But frequently keep on cleaning up this product backlog. Why it is important is, this product backlog helps the product owner to plan and prioritize things and foresee and forecast the estimate of the complete project. When I say complete project, what does that means? If you are having too many items and you are partially estimating, not estimating many of the stories, that means your product owner is in trouble. Like your product owner, when someone in business is asking, hey, how much time it is going to take for your product catalog related functionality or requirement? First of all, to go through that product backlog, what is valid, what is invalid, what is estimated, what is not estimated, how can I plan it? That itself is a tedious process for the product owner. So product backlog estimation is very important, but prerequisite is please clean up your product backlog very often, so that it will be a very sanitized list which will help you to understand, okay, these are the items that we have and these are the items that are required for the project. And if I am clearing up the doubts of these work items and estimating it with the help of the team, then we are able to foresee and forecast the project timeline. Okay, so now we have product backlog. We'll get into detail how the product backlog estimation happens. Now comes the question, okay, anyway we are estimating in the product backlog all the work items. Why we need to estimate now the sprint backlog? Here comes the question. So product backlog is a long-term vision, right? As I mentioned, the life cycle of the product backlog is something like it exists for the entire life cycle of the project. So till the project is available, this particular product backlog is also going to be valid. And we have the detail about how our entire project is going to travel. But sprint backlog is, what is the difference between sprint backlog and product backlog? Sprint backlog is just a subset of the product backlog, right? It is actually only valid for the particular Scrum, only particular time box event, which is called as a sprint. If you are using 10-day sprint or 15-day sprint, which means your length of the sprint is 10 days or 15 days, according to that, your sprint will get closed. it doesn't matter whether you are completing all the work items or not, the sprint will get closed, right? There is no exit criteria of a sprint. There are multiple entry criteria, but there is no exit criteria of sprint. Even though you complete it or not, it is a time boxed event. So once the clock ticks on the 10th day, if it is the length of the sprint is 10, that's it. You are done with the sprint and you will be starting the fresh sprint. So now in this sprint also we need to estimate, which is called as, you have a sprint goal for every sprint. As a team, you will commit on the sprint goal and you will pull the items from the product backlog to the sprint backlog. That will help you to achieve that sprint goal, right? Like for example, you want to ensure your product is getting the login functionality and search functionality. That means what you will do, your target is at the end of the sprint, our team is going to deliver login functionality and search functionality of the product. That means all the login related user stories, search related user stories, we will be putting into our sprint backlog. Now, here also we need to estimate. Even though everything is estimated earlier, can we drag everything and put it here in the sprint backlog? Maybe product owner wants both login and search, but as a team, we don't have that much bandwidth. We need to estimate that, right? So that is where we do the capacity planning. So capacity planning is going to give us the whole picture, what is the available bandwidth of the team and how much we can take it from the product backlog to achieve the sprint goal. Only with the capacity can we run the show? Of course, we can run the show with the help of capacity also. There is one more option with which also we can estimate our sprint backlog, that is the velocity. But what is the catch with velocity is like, if your team is not yet stabilized, if you are in a very, very initial phase, your velocity will have too many ups and downs. The reason is, one thing is all your team members are not available. You are still hiring, people are settling down, and you don't have the same team every sprint. So it is like up and down, those kind of situation. Second thing is, your product backlog is going through lot of changes. That scope changes like something on the peak. Then how are you expecting the velocity also to be stable? So if you are in a team where you have a very stabilized team and your velocity trend is also not having too many ups and downs, then velocity will give you a major control to plan your sprint. Otherwise, it's best to go with capacity. So that is the level of estimation we need to do in the sprint backlog. We will slightly talk about more in the upcoming slide also. So very important thing is, we need to estimate at the product backlog level, at the sprint backlog level. Okay. Now, product backlog level, what are we doing and how it is going to help the product owner? As we already touched upon, I want to get it into much more detail. So product backlog is a collection where all the work items related to the project is available. So first thing is, product owner will be ordering these work items based on the priority. This is the first thing that product owner will be doing. Based on priority, product owner will be ensuring that whether the required information is available on these work items, so that these work items can be taken for refinement or not. That is the second thing what product owner should do. Now, if the order of the priority is also clearly available, plus the clarity of information is also clearly available, we are ready to start the refinement. Do not expect or do not plan refinement sessions as user story writing sessions. That will not help. That will eat up more time. How a refinement session should be, you have a story and you have certain details. I'm not saying 100% details because that's impossible. But at least you should have the basic set of information from where you can start. That is very important. If you have that level of information, you are allowing your team to understand most of the things, and they will be asking so many questions. And from there, you will be able to achieve your 100% clarity on the work item. That's why user stories, we are following 3C principle, right? Card, conversation, and confirmation. So out of these three, card, conversation, and confirmation, basic things at least should be available in the work item before we jump into the refinement meeting. It is not like, okay, this story, login management or user management, and let me go and ask team what they are telling. I will write on the user story acceptance criteria. That should not be the situation. So what is the role of Scrum Master here? Before planning a refinement meeting, you should know and you should give the guidance to your product owner. Have a check of definition of ready, at least meeting to a level of 2 or 3. Okay, definition of ready is a checklist we all know. I don't want to deviate the topic to definition of ready. Always it's good to measure with some numeric values. Have a checklist. Definition of ready 1 means what all the things should be available in the work item. Definition of ready 2 means what are the things available in the work item. Definition of ready 3 means what are the things available in the work item. Always have a plan. If the work item is meeting definition of ready 3, then only I will take this work item for refinement. This Scrum Master should do as an exercise. Otherwise, what will happen? Not even the complete title itself is available. We are getting into the refinement and we are writing story over there, which will not help in estimation, which is actually a kind of like story design phase, which will happen in the refinement session itself, which will take a lot of time, because the refinement session is not meant for that, right? It should encourage more and more discussion. It should encourage more and more requirement elaboration and getting more details, so that as a team, we all know that, okay, this is what is expected. And now we are in a situation to estimate it. And now we are in a situation to identify dependencies, risk of this particular work item. That is the whole purpose of refinement, not on story design. So Scrum Masters should help and support product owners in this to come up with a set of user stories that are related to the refinement session. Now, in the refinement, what happens? We will be understanding that, and we'll be coming outcome of the refinement session is estimation value. We will in detail see why story point, why not others, why t-shirt sizing, all those things we will talk. Now, we are doing this in product backlog, right? Now, whatever I'm talking so far is happening in product backlog, because stories are written in the product backlog. Refinement is happening from the product backlog, which is actually prioritized from the product owner side and completely written by the product owner side. So all these things are happening. So now estimation is also done. So now this particular story is available in product backlog. Now, let's consider if business is asking to product owner, can you please tell us how much time it is going to take for these two requirements, which is for search and which is for product insert products. Now it is very easy for the product owner. Go and quickly check in the product backlog how many stories inside that feature are epic related to the particular search functionality. Okay, there are 5 stories. Okay, how many 5 stories, how many story points have been written? Okay, this much. Now go to Scrum Master. Ask the velocity, average velocity that the team is running up with now, and look for how many sprints it will take. Now go and tell to the business, search functionality is going to take 3 sprint time. Fair enough, right? This is what estimation in the product backlog is going to help. So this is going to help the product owner to understand and foresee what is the plan of every feature with the timeline. So that now one way it is helping the timeline. Another, let's take another question from business. Hey, we have only 2 months. I want to discuss with you and understand, can we add only basic search or advanced search? Can you come up with a clear picture for me? This is the ask to the product owner from business. Now, what product owner should be doing? There are 2 features. One is basic search, which has 5 stories. And there is one more feature, which is called as advanced search, which is taking around 10 stories. Now, those all are estimated, which are available in the product backlog. Now, basic search is going to take 2 sprints. Advanced search is going to take extra 3 sprints. Now go to business and say, like, this is going to take 2 sprints and this is going to take 3 sprints. As we have only 2 more months in our hand, it's highly impossible to take advanced search. The reason being, we have other important features also planned. So let's not pick up advanced search. For the first release, let's go with only basic search. So now you have really a logic to convince on what the scope that you need to work to the business. If you don't have this estimation, what will happen? I cannot understand. Now I need to roughly estimate. Team is telling, no, no, you said like 1 week. No, it will take 2 weeks of time. We cannot complete it in 1 week. Now there are a lot of situations which we will not be able to manage, and we will not get into a real picture of how much time it is going to take. So this is the advantage and value of estimation. Not only for forecasting the timeline, also understand the priority. Now, even though search is a major functionality which holds high priority, product owner is in a situation to explain to the business, hey, in search functionality, go with only basic search as a high priority, not the advanced search. Because advanced search, as it is taking more time, and I feel it can be taken as a back seat, and let's lower the priority. So for prioritizing things also, this estimation is going to help. And whenever we say that estimation, automatically when we will be able to estimate, when we have clear picture of what we are going to work, why are we working on this story, and what are the challenges in the story. Have we identified the dependencies? Have we identified what are the risks that can come? When we will be able to come up with all these details, whenever we are in a situation to refine it clearly and understand the details clearly, that is when we will be able to tell all these details. When I say we will be refining it clearly, understanding it clearly, that is the time we will be able to, at the end, estimate it. So whenever we say our product backlog is having good number of estimated work items, that means the team is well aware of the product roadmap. Team is well aware of what is going to come in the future. That's why we always talk about product backlog health, which is very important metric, not for the current sprint, for the upcoming sprints. So in that way, these all are the advantages we are going to get with the help of the product backlog estimation. In a nutshell, to prioritize the topics, to prioritize the features, or to prioritize the requirements, it's going to help the product owner. And for the product owner to foresee the timeline of the requirements that are going to be planned. And the third one is team is getting the complete clarity and they are able to estimate it. That's the value that estimation brings to the team. They are more inching towards the knowledge of the product roadmap in a better way. Okay. Now, next topic is on the sprint backlog estimation. So, okay, now we have estimated and we have taken it in the sprint. What is the big deal in estimating the sprint backlog? As I mentioned, the sprint goal may be talking about multiple things, like I need a search functionality and I need a user management. These are the high level topics that are the implementation topics that we are looking as a sprint goal. But do we have that much of bandwidth and capacity to manage this goal? May not be. Then we need to do a small estimation, which we generally do in our sprint planning meeting. That is really required so the team knows that what is the available capacity and how much we can plan, and generally what is our rhythm. With all those things, we will be able to estimate our sprint backlog. So it is not like sprint goal says something that we will be able to perform everything, or the sprint goal says these are the 2 topics that we will be able to manage it, then go ahead and complete it. It's not like that. It should be in a way that how much capacity we have, accordingly we should be able to plan it. That's where the sprint backlog is helping. In addition, sprint backlog estimation is helping. In addition to that, generally for new teams especially, subtask creation within the work items is very essential. Why? Because to understand from daily day-to-day point, in teams where already a level of maturity has been achieved in the product and we know the information, we know completely the topic, what we need to implement, it may not be really interesting. But in places where you are in a situation that you need to have a daily management also in a better way, this subtask is going to help. Say, for example, I am a team member, I'm working on a particular task. If there are no subtasks, Okay. What will happen? I'll say that I'm working on this story. I'm in this portion of the story. You won't get to know whether the person is stuck somewhere. You don't know whether the person is actually having having the execution as per the plan, or you don't know whether there is already a blocker or there is a blocker the upcoming day. Even other team members or as a scrum master or as a product owner, no one can completely understand if there are no subtasks. So it is very essential, at least at the beginning, because after a certain time in the project execution, we will get into a level where we know that how the things will work and what is the clarity, and our approach also will be different because we are very much knowing the product and we know how to tackle the situations. But whereas if it is in a very initial phase, we need to challenge so many things, we need to understand so many things. In that places, team support is very important. For that, the subtask is going to help as part of the Scrum event daily standard meeting. Okay, so that also comes under the estimation of sprint backlog, because in task, what we will be doing, we will segregate task in such a way the task generally should not flow more than a day time. That means it should be restricted like 8 hours or 5 hours, whatever the timeline it can be. In very specific situations, we need to create tasks that should cut across 2 days, or maybe like it is extending because it cannot give any kind of logical value within a day. So we are extending the time. That can be a very specific scenario or a very exceptional scenario. Otherwise, generally, we should create subtask in a way that it should be getting completed in a day. So this gives a kind of like clarity to the team. Okay, this is how I need to be. I was unable to complete the previous work, the previous day work, because I have a blocker or I got into a blocker. So I need some help. So it gives a kind of like visual presentation, and it also gives other people in the team the clarity that your team member is also in need of support. That's the whole purpose of the daily stand-up meeting, right? It's not about sharing the status. It's all about collaborative meeting. We need to share the information so that it brings a collaboration within the team, and they will also be able to contribute in the places. The other person may be saying like, hey, don't do this, I already have done that, you can reuse it. You may not be knowing this if there is no such meeting, or if there is no such subtask creation, or if there is no such collaborative session. So that's the whole purpose of daily stand-up meeting, right? So sprint backlog estimation, in two ways it is helpful. One, in the level of managing your capacity, knowing the capacity, and pull the items that actually align to the sprint goal, but with the help of the capacity factor. The second one is when your team is new and you are new to the project and you will be definitely unable to clear up all the items, that's the time you need to go with subtask, and you should be able to manage that subtask level. Okay, so this is with sprint backlog. How it is going to help the team? The first thing is, as I mentioned, it is going to help not only the team, even for anyone who is looking at your Scrum board, they will be able to understand, oh, okay, this is what it is and this is how it is going to take, and team has already planned, because your subtask is actually fitting it within a day time, right? So it is actually giving a clear picture to anyone who is looking at the board. So automatically this visual representation is helping with the help of this estimation. And the second thing is, team should know what they need to pick up in the sprint. It is not like, oh, the goal is something, I need to pick all the items that is matching with the goal and finally unable to complete anything. So that level estimation within the sprint is helping us to plan the crisp items that are going to help us and give value in the sprint level. Okay. So now let's talk about user story a little bit. Okay. We all know, but I just want to, before getting into the estimation, we all know, we should know that what is all about user story. So I feel if someone is ready to share something about user story, I'm happy to hear, or we can also go through the session. Someone wants to share any points about what is a user story, just tell from your point of view. It should not be like a typical definition. According to you, what is a user story? Anyone?
User story is a kind of series that maybe it's a kind of film that we divided into multiple series, and we are doing some incremental way, maybe a small pieces of achievements.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mahesh.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Okay, so let me go with the what is from my point of view. I generally say user story as the in the sprint level, what team can implement. That only is user story. Team won't be implementing feature, team won't be implementing requirement, team won't be implementing epic. Team will be implementing user stories because that are the units which are available to them on the execution during the sprint time. So user stories are going to be delivering a value that is more important. So here comes the catch. Generally, we write user stories for design, we write user stories for testing, we write user stories for architecture. It is something like that. We generally write user stories, right? Which is not correct. They are task. They are some work. They are some task at the work stream level. Design is a work stream, testing is a work stream, development is a work stream, engineering is a work stream, architecture is a work stream. All these are work streams. When we are performing something on this, it is nothing but a task, not something like we are uh, creating only I will develop this. If I don't test this, who is going to use it? I will only design this. No one is going to develop it, and no one is going to test it. Then what is the benefit for that design? So what is the value that we are delivering? That is very important. So user stories should give a logical value, and user stories should not be written based on the work stream. Whenever work stream means, as I mentioned, testing, design, engineering, like that, it should be a blend of everything. And the very important thing is, when you say, hey, I am done with this user story, that means if you take this code and put it in your production, it should work. That time, no, it won't work. Here in this environment only it will work. In the production environment and all, it won't work. That means you are not actually done. Your definition of done has a gap. It cannot be environment specific, right? So user stories, as Mahesh mentioned, it is the same concept. So user stories are actually at that particular period of time what we are going to implement. So team will be focusing only on user stories because the user stories are the only execution units for them, not the feature, not the epic, not the requirement in the sprint time, right? Now, user stories help all the people in different ways. For a product owner to capture what they are expecting, what they want really from the user story, they will be writing on that. For a developer to get the clarity, what are the use cases that they need to develop, what are the functional things that are going to come up in that, and what are the expectations of the product owner that should be managed in the story. All the things for the development purpose, developers are going to use it. Testers are going to use it for creating the acceptance test, for coming up with the different use cases, different test sets, different test data, NFR, all the information they are going to get from the user story. And another point I just want to mention, if there is no NFR for a particular user story, you know only the functional detail, you don't know about the non-functional detail. Please keep it as NFR hyphen not applicable. Make this as a practice. What happens? People create user stories for functional. Okay, let's take one very common example. Again, login. Okay, the login page, when you enter username, password, and clicking on login, it should navigate to the home page of the application. This is the simple requirement. This is a functional requirement, right? There is a hidden non-functional information. What is that hidden info? Any time when you take a requirement, functional requirement is much visible. Non-functional requirement, you cannot get it until and unless you ask the question to the product owner, because entering username, password, clicking on login, it should work done. Yeah, this is what it is. Please encourage the team in the refinement session to ask the question. Okay, I click on login. It should go to the home page in what time? 5 minutes, 5 seconds, 1 second, 1 millisecond. What is the time that you are expecting? That is when this question will help us to understand what is the non-functional aspect of the story. So this is actually not clearly visible like how we have functional requirement. So always ask these questions. Any user story, in the refinement session, make it as a mandatory thing. Okay, what is the non-functional aspect of this? There is nothing. Okay, put it as not applicable. What generally we will do, we will implement everything. Okay, it is navigating to home page. We'll write on separate story. Title is NFR in the login page. No, why we are doing this separate now? The reason is we were unable to capture that time, and now we realize from business it came like, hey, it is taking too much time, and why it is taking too much time? We want it in so many milliseconds. That's when we realize, oh my god, we missed the non-functional aspect itself. Let's add it. So make these all simple things, but make this as a practice. Ensure your definition of ready has a checklist item called non-functional requirement added. Otherwise, do not accept it. Just say, okay, not applicable. If it is not there, make it as not applicable. Anyway, these things, it will be applicable, right? Whenever you take a web application, you at least have some kind of benchmark levels for every action, right? So you need to capture somewhere. So those things are very much mandatory. Now, coming to the point of user story. So these are some levels of information that we will be adding. For testers also, it will be helpful to ensure whether they need to do any kind of non-functional testing or not. So we talked about product owner, we talked about developer, we talked about testers, for the documentation people as well. This user story, is there any document update required or not? Is this a functional change that should be tracked? If there is a non-functional aspect which should be tracked in the information for use, IFU document. For any product, you will be having IFU document, information for use. So whether we need to update in the information for use or user guide, whatever the document we call by, but do we need to update it? That means documentation person also have some work, right? Why I am telling from every angle, these all things are required in the estimation. Okay, so how to maintain that whether documentation is required or not? Add it in your definition of ready. If the documentation is not applicable, let us put like NA in the particular story, so that okay, we analyzed, but we realized that it is not required. Fine, that's fine. But at least this will give an opportunity for us to think whether documentation is required or not. So now we know the user story, what it actually has, and how it is helping every person in different ways, from development point of view, product owner point of view, testing point of view, documentation point of view. Now, with the help of this information, what the team will be able to identify? They will be able to identify what are the dependencies that are involved, what are the risks that are involved, what is the complexity of the work that is involved, and what is the amount of work that is required. These all things they can get the information. Why dependencies and risk are important? Because we are going to do the estimation and clarity of user story or work item in the refinement session. We have not yet reached the sprint time, right? Before getting into the sprint, we want to ensure all the dependencies are clear. That will give us a fact, or that will give us an option to run the show very smoothly. Before actually getting into any kind of hiccups during the sprint execution. So third or fourth day of the sprint, we are blocked because we never realized that this dependency will get turned into a complete impediment and it is blocking our show. So first itself, try to identify the dependencies. How we can identify the dependencies? We need to have the complete clarity. How we will get the clarity? We'll do the refinement session. This is how the flow is. Now we have identified dependencies, we have identified risk, we have identified the complexity and the amount of work for all the things. With the help of these things, we need to plan our estimation value, not with only amount of work. That is more important. In traditional estimation, we do agree, we will give the accurate values 3 days, 2 hours, 1 day, like that we will be giving the accurate units in time. But in our agile estimation or the story point estimation, we will not be doing that. We will be ensuring our execution units. What are the execution units? The user story in the sprint, because that is the work item the team will be picking up and working it on. For them, team should identify all these things. Okay, so based on these things, we will be estimating our stories. I think let's from the next topic onwards, I'll plan a next session because I think it will take another maybe 1 hour to complete the entire things till estimation. I just want to open the floor for any questions or any suggestions. Any questions from anyone?
I have one question, Selvi. In an early session of this topic, so we were discussing about the stories which is not in the scope, right? As you mentioned that you can have some status of invalid, something like that in backlog, so
Mhm.
that it will not be updated over there during our refinement session.
Yes.
So in my Jira, I can see some option called descope. Should we need to have that option as a workflow for the story level, then only it will be applicable, or how it is, how we can make that status active?
Okay. So generally, how we will be doing this is, Magesh, like we can set our like own status in the Jira for this particular scenario of whether it is either a descoped item or it is no more valid. Based on that, whatever the status you can pull in. But when you should be doing this is, you should be doing this as a, because this doesn't need a team effort. This is completely product owner effort, and you can also facilitate in that activity as a scrum master, but you need to do this
Right.
very often. So what you need to do is like, you need to ensure every week there can be some product management teams that will be happening. Meetings will be happening with the product owner and the business owner and the product management team. They will be having a meeting. Some decisions, if it is coming from that meeting, what you can do is like just to set a meeting cadence of, after that meeting the next day you plan some 1 hour or 2 hours with your product owner just to understand what are the challenges and changes that we are expecting, and what are the things that got completely disproved. Just get the details from your product owner. So when you are getting from the product owner, now just go through the list. The first thing is, if they are already in the execution, then it's a trouble. Like already, if it is in the sprint execution, we need to stop it immediately, right? If it is
Mm.
not in the sprint execution, if it is only in the product backlog, immediately go update the status with whatever, in your case it is descoped, means you can select it as descope, add a comment from so and so meeting with these participants, it is decided this particular requirement is no more valid, hence descoping this. So now
Okay.
you will be having the complete clarity anytime in the refinement. As a product owner, as a scrum master, you will not have any kind of questions. Okay, what are the things which are really applicable? That list itself you don't have, right? If you are not having the status, you think that 100 items are there. Unfortunately, in that 110 items are already descoped, but still you have not reflected in your product backlog, means according to you, still 100 is 100 only. It's not 90. So
Oh,
now the this, at least this descoping will help you in that, Manish.
okay, fine. But anyhow, it will be listed in the backlog only. By
Yes,
seeing the status, we would come to know whether it is in scope or descope.
correct. There is one
Right.
more option, as I mentioned, you can reuse that story itself, because
Ah, yeah.
that particular work item you can reuse it. You, what you can do is like, you just and in the meeting when you are connecting with your product owner, you understood that okay, these things are not going to be valid. Put it in the title, reuse within the
Okay.
tag. So now you tell to your product owner, hey, anyway, you confirm that this is not going to be coming up in our product roadmap anytime. Do we really want
Mm-hmm.
to create a status and make it as a separate list of descoped or invalid? Can we reuse it? If your product owner is comfortable in reusing that and don't want to have a track record of the previous one, what happens in some situations, you would have already refined it and you would have added lot of conversation details in your comments.
Right.
Now it would have been invalid. Now what will happen if you try to reuse it? You will be confused. Now it may be clear for you. Let's take another scrum master is going to take this team. They'll think like, okay, why there was some irrelevant comments have been added. This was related, not even related to this user story. Why they have written this? All confusions will come until and unless you really track it in the comments. So
Okay.
reusing, if it is feasible and it is like a clear picture that the story can be reused and your product owner is comfortable, please go ahead with that. And if it is, you are feeling like no, it is, it is actually not going to be really helpful. Let me create a new one. Let me make this as a descoped one, or even in the title also you can put it as descoped in addition to the status as descoped, so that whenever someone sees, they do not even go to the status. They'll immediately see, oh, this is not going to be a valuable item. So
Correct.
these are some options you can try it out, but it is mandatory to try it out so that your product backlog doesn't seems to be something like a huge list which has both valid, invalid, and many things.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Mangesh. Yeah, and Vivek, the point what you mentioned is very valid. And in the estimation, I'll bring this point also. What is the business value? I have not brought this point in this section. As you mentioned, the 5 factors for estimation includes business value as well. Thanks for putting that in the comments. Okay. Any other questions from anyone? So the next topic we will be taking it up from here will be what is the difference between the traditional estimation and what we do today in our story point estimation. And we will talk about the different estimation techniques like what we have today. Mainly I will be talking about planning poker and the complexity bucket. And there are many other, but I'll be focusing on these two. Plus, what are the practical scenarios that we do, especially with estimation? As I mentioned, user story creation, we follow certain things like, let me create one testing story alone. Let me create one design story alone. So similarly in estimation also, we do certain things. I just want to highlight on those practical challenges as well. And I'll also give some inputs from my side, how I have managed or how I have taken that situation. So those points also we will discuss. Plus, what is the difference between this t-shirt sizing and the Fibonacci series when you give it in numeric values? These things also we will discuss. I think we have a packed agenda for the next session as well. We'll try to plan it in the upcoming week so that we will have some related flow from this day to the next session.
Okay, Selvi. Yeah.
Okay, I think hopefully this session would have helped in understanding the basic things before we get into the topic of estimation, why product backlog estimation and sprint backlog estimation. If any questions, if you are getting further in this topic, please feel free to post it in the WhatsApp group so that we can discuss on that.
Sure, Selvi.
Sure, Selvi.
Thank you so much for this session.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you, Selvi.
Have a very good time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.